Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is Ship Updates. Now, this week of course we are in that pre-CitizenCon drought, so I kind of wanted to talk about the Mantis a little bit and what I honestly think about the Mantis and its implementation. I kind of wanted to bring up a post from Reddit that I saw recently, and it was posted by Colonial Movers, and this is the image that they posted up in that thread, and they were listing all the ships that CIG has sold and all the ships that they have delivered. What's delivered is in black, what is not delivered is in red. So you might think, oh wow, they've actually got a lot of things done and into the game, but the truth is unfortunately a little bit more nuanced than that, because if you look at a lot of these ships that are finished that are in black, you might say, well, the Herald is finished. Well, not really, because its gameplay is missing. The Reclaimer is finished. Well, not really, its gameplay is missing. And there are other things like the modularity and the detachable cockpit of the Caterpillar. There's a lot of these ships, in fact, probably almost all of them, that have some elements missing or some things that need to be fixed or changed. And not just because like Minion Soldier says so, but just because in general CIG has even admitted that here are things that we have yet to implement. These are things that have yet to exist on your ship, so we're going to have to implement these things on your ship, and in that implementation some other things might have to change in order for that to work. So realistically, we are still in that alpha period of game development, so truthfully none of them are really finished. And this is kind of in a roundabout way, we're going to come to the Mantis now and what I really think about the Mantis. Now, if you're out and you're playing 3.7 now, you may remember that, the Mantis is an interdictor, and there's a hell of a lot of interdiction going on in Star Citizen right now. A heck of a lot. But the Mantis isn't really responsible for 99.9% of that. That's NPCs doing it, and we've talked about that recently. Prior to the Mantis being released, I had kind of said that it's important that interdiction gets into the game so that we can get a crack at it, so we can see what's good, what's bad, so we can see how it may be exploited, things like that, and we can start to begin the iterative process on, especially from a pirate point of view, a very important mechanic in the game. So I was very excited to see this thing come out. Now, interdiction obviously not really living up to its potential in the Star Citizen universe. But that, at this stage in development, that's not a horrible thing. It's kind of telling that there was so much emphasis and so much time spent on the visuals, but so little spent on the functional components of interdiction and how it should work. And, I would say that wouldn't be something that's out of place in Star Citizen. It's not the first time. But, if you think that because of all these problems that are facing the Mantis, I think that the Mantis is a bad ship, I think you're only really picking up on half the story, because in the future, whatever shape interdiction takes, whatever form it finally evolves into, the Mantis is obviously going to be kind of a key component in that gameplay, whatever shape it takes. Now, the visual may not track very well, the whole, core opening up and, the field expanding outwards may not track very well with the final form that interdiction takes. But in the end, I don't think that this is a ship that is necessarily out of place in the future. I think, like a lot of ships in Star Citizen, like the Reclaimer, like the Herald, it is a ship that still needs polish, still needs thought, still needs to be revisited and iterated upon. There are no finished ships in Star Citizen. Everything needs a little tweak here and there. Some needs some pretty major tweaks, some major fixes, or some core systems that need to be brought into the game, like tractor beams and whatnot. So I think that if you're purchasing a Mantis with an eye for the future and for interdicting ships, and you're saying, you know what, I understand that this is just more or less, I mean, it's a glorified placeholder for what interdiction is going to be, but I don't think that it's it's meant to reflect interdiction in its final form. But if you're buying it with an eye for interdiction in the future, whatever shape that takes, then it's not a terrible idea. There's a lot of negative discussion around the ship, and you would think that I would be the first person to kind of jump aboard that and say, yeah, this interdiction is a dumb idea. It is a dumb idea, but the ship itself may not end up being a dumb idea, whatever form that interdiction takes. That's something to kind of think about with the ship, is what looks weak in one patch, as we all know, can become very powerful in the next patch depending on a few changes. You can use the Aurora LN as a very prominent example of that. Once we got those gimbaled size 1 guns, it kind of changed the story of the Aurora LN. So when you buy a ship, you don't just kind of look at it, especially when it first becomes flyable, and say, okay, that's all that there is. This is what it's going to be. And we're kind of going back to that list that was published, and these are the ships that are done. No, they are not. None of them are. I mean, even if you look at the other ship in this picture, the Caterpillar, there's a heck of a lot of things that have to kind of go into the Caterpillar to make the Caterpillar a complete ship. And when people look at the Caterpillar now, I think a lot more people are kind of looking at it and seeing the utility and the obvious strengths that this ship has, and the things that are still yet to come with the Caterpillar, and saying this is a really strong ship. And that's probably one of the drivers behind its win at the ship showdown. Amongst some really great flyable ships, the Caterpillar just trounced right through it and won. A lot of the Drake and a lot of the utility ships had a very strong showing in that competition. I think that that's something that you have to think about, is when you're looking at the future of the ship, the current state of it doesn't reflect the end state. And that's an important distinction to make when you're looking at these things. It's not something that really has like a foundation in math. It's more intuition. It's like, I think that this is going to be very important in the future. And so while I'm not somebody who owns a Mantis, and not really somebody who plans to purchase a Mantis, and I might look at it and say, the future of the Mantis, based on what I see right now, might be really bleak. No, I don't think so. I think that while the current situation that the Mantis is in is far from what we would like to see it as, I think that in order for it to live up to its profession, we're going to see probably some big changes with interdiction. And in the end, we're probably going to see a very strong ship. I mean, another great example is staring you right in the face right now. I've often campaigned for changes to make the Vanguard a much more viable ship, and CIG has made some changes to the Vanguard and some decent changes to it. I think that there is still a ways to go with the Vanguard. There are still some things that need a little bit of a change or a little bit of a fix, but overall I think CIG has made progress with this ship. And I think that, if we had looked at the Vanguard that we had 2 years ago compared to the Vanguard that we have now, I mean, the difference in a lot of ways is pretty damn good. It has improved, but still some stuff that needs to be done. But to get back to the Mantis, I was about to totally digress there and get into the specifics of the Vanguard issues, but you have to kind of look at the Mantis. You might say that in the end, interdiction, is it working? Not really. Is it viable as a form of gameplay? Not really. But interdiction is going to be a core part of Star Citizen. We know this. We understand that interdiction is going to be a thing. Whether you're a pirate or whether you're a mercenary, pulling ships out of warp or stopping ships from warping away, be they pirate, be they, law-abiding players, be it the Vandal, you're going to need to have that capability. It's going to be core to the game. So having a ship that can do it is probably going to be something that will come in handy for certain groups. Not every individual pilot needs to own it, but it'd probably be handy for one or two people in a larger group of players to own such a thing. So whatever form it does take, I have a feeling that the Mantis is probably going to be pretty darn good in fulfilling that role in the future. Now, would I have preferred that, quantum interdiction came as a module rather than as a ship? Yeah, I would have preferred that, but can't sell a module.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.